Woo-hoo-hoo. And we're live once again on another Tuesday. And I have a special guest in the house, Sandee. And Sandee Solves with her lovely banner. I love it. So, Sandee, before we get stuck in and talk about our topic today, can you please just introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do, and then we'll get chatting.
Very good. I am Sandee Rodriguez. I have been a serial entrepreneur for over 30 years, and in the most recent years have created Sandee Solves here as a business advising company where I work with women in businesses to help them scale and grow them with a lot less effort and much more calmness by using systems and processes that may be missing.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I'm going to add in, you're also an Evernote, do we say expert, specialist? I don't know what we're supposed to say these days, but
Yeah, they
you
renamed us this year. We're now Evernote certified experts, but yeah, same thing. I'm a pro.
I love it. I love it. And you're rocking that Evernote stuff. And that is something I don't know anything about. So that's a cool topic in itself. But
Yeah.
our topic today is time-saving tips for using LinkedIn. And we kind of laughed beforehand because we said, okay, basically, how do you go on LinkedIn without spending half your day? That's really what the topic is, because we get into LinkedIn and it's like this black hole and we're just like, oh my gosh, you look up and it's like, okay, it's dark out now. I started with my coffee and now it's time to move to cocktails. I've been here all day. So we want to stop doing that. So Sandee, let's talk about some of your tips, some of my tips, and let's maybe we'll take some questions. We'll find out what other people have to say. But so let's just back up. You are, how long have you been on LinkedIn? Let's start with that.
Oh, I'm probably one of those people who maybe in the early days of LinkedIn signed up, put my name on the thing and walked away and then never did anything with it. And then the pandemic came into play and it was like, I live in a virtual world now. I bet I can find people to talk to on LinkedIn. And I started training like crazy on how to set up a profile and do all the things and meet people and be more intentional about being on there. So the last 2 years, I would say I've really been very connected, grew my connections and got into some great groups, met you. And, it's been a really fun ride. But as you pointed out, sometimes I'll start too early in the morning. You're not really supposed to do that on your phone first thing in the morning, but I'll go, what are my notifications? Did anybody say anything to me? I need to answer this. And I'll look at like, where'd 2 hours go?
Right. And I love the keyword you just threw in there, which was intentional. Going on LinkedIn intentional, because at the end of the day, we have to have a plan, because if you just kind of go scrolling through the news feed, to me, that's where I have to be careful. If I start there, that's it. I'm dead. I'm dead in the water, because it's just like the nose feed just keeps going on forever and I can never get through it. So I actually have a strategy, but I would love to hear it, you being intentional and into processes and systems. Do you have a specific strategy that you map out and follow yourself?
I mean, I could do it better than I do, but yes, when I first get into my LinkedIn account, I don't go to the feed at all. I
Mm,
actually go to the messaging first. Did
mm,
anybody send me a message? Is there something I need to respond to? Because to me, that's the highest priority, is having those conversations. So I handle any direct messages first. Then I go to the notifications and I just scroll through that and see, if it just says, oh, someone liked something, I don't usually pay that much attention to that, because you could spend hours responding to all of that. But if someone commented on one of my posts or there's something that's more directly related to me, again, in terms of conversation, I immediately respond to that. One of the other things I try to do, and you talked about the feed, is I really avoid it. And I blame LinkedIn for that, because they have stuffed it so full of ads, especially if
okay.
you're on your phone. I'm scrolling I get one post, then I get an ad. I get two posts, then I get, your friends are following this. Then I get a couple
Mhm.
more. And it's like, just stop. It's like sitting in front of a TV and watching a steady diet of commercials. So
Right.
I've almost given up on the feed. And another LinkedIn expert I know, Bryn Tillman, always said that the better way to manage your time on people's posts is to bookmark their posts URL on their
Mm,
profile, and then
mm.
go to your bookmarks, go find the last thing that they posted and engage on that. And that way you're having conversations with the people that you want, not the people that LinkedIn decided you should talk to.
I love that. I love that. And it's true. And I know Jeff Young, I'll give him a quick shout out. He recommends the same thing. It's like bookmark sort of your sort of inner network, not necessarily VIPs, but people that either you enjoy having a conversation with, or maybe they're potential prospects, maybe they're some of your customers, your
Yep,
clients. It's like kind of think of your spheres of influence, and those are the key people that you want to talk to, or maybe even people you'd like to get to know. So you want to be on their radar screen. So
right.
that's another idea as well. That's good. That's good. And I love that you're putting people first, because by saying you're starting off with messaging, to me, that's the most intentional thing. And I'm like you, I check my messages. That's the first thing that I do. What are you like from a systems point of view and processes? Have you got the new focused inbox? What do you think of that? Do
Oh,
you have that
yes, and I
feature?
love it.
Okay.
Because all the not all, but I would say the majority of the solicitations, the unwelcome, messages are now in the other side of things, and my focused that I will say the algorithm got that pretty correct. So I'm not seeing, a lot of the stuff I was getting before that it's a waste of time. You have to sort it. So
Mhm.
if LinkedIn is sorting it for us. I mean, I go look at it once in a while because you do want to check other because sometimes there's actually someone in there you meant to talk to,
Yes.
and their algorithm got it wrong and put them over there. So you get them back into the focus side, and all is well again. But I have found it to make a big difference, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's cleaner.
Mhm.
It's cleaner, and I if I could have a couple of wish lists, I would love to be able to like what I do in email. I like to flag things. So
Yes.
I use Microsoft Outlook as my email platform. I can't do Gmail. It hurts my brain. But Microsoft Outlook, I love how I can just, click and flag things, and then I know that it's important to come back to it. So the only cheat I use is sometimes I will make a message unread. If I can't deal with it
Mm,
right then and there, I'll make it an unread message. And then that way it kind of stays bold. And then I know to come in and take care of it. And I actually I never look at messages from my phone, because I take too long to type on my phone, and
yes.
I don't want it to go unread, because sometimes I think I replied to somebody and I just thought I did.
Yes.
It's
Done that. But I love
that's
your
not a
tip
good thing.
about marking it unread. I never thought about doing that, but that's brilliant. I'm gonna be implementing that next.
That's a good one. Now, do you have any special system for, like, here's one thing that is a weakness of mine, is every once in a while somebody will say, "Oh, do you have a copywriter you would recommend?" Or do you, and it's not something I do. So this is where I'd want to recommend a colleague. And then I'm like, "Oh, I would have to go in and do a whole search of my first level connections," which I can do. But I've often wondered, are other people using any kind of systems to, either CRMs, or do you do any sort of outside things with LinkedIn, or do you just keep your organization within LinkedIn?
No, I mean, as you correctly pointed out, it does not have good searchability.
Mhm.
So when I make a new contact, particularly if we're going to have a Zoom session or something like that, and I want to keep track of them, I have a table that I set up in Evernote, of course,
Hmm. Hmm.
that has their name, their LinkedIn profile link. So it's right there for me, the Zoom date, some notes about why are we meeting. And I even have a couple columns, one that says, would this be a good guest in the future? Is this a
Mm.
referral partner? And so when a question like that comes up, I could just go to OneNote and Evernote and scan through my list really quickly and see who fits that profile very well. I do not know of any shortcuts for doing that in a LinkedIn search. I mean, especially once you get a serious number of connections and followers, then I mean, when you're into the thousands, I mean, talk about losing time. And
Yes.
trying to find the one person, even in the messaging. That's why I love your tip on that. I've lost messages I wanted to get back to, and who has time to scroll through that whole list when you've talked to 100 people?
No, it's like, LinkedIn, if you're listening, we'd like flags,
Oh,
we'd like folders,
yes.
and we'd like tags. And I think somebody once gave me, I think it was Adam, gave me a tour of Sales Navigator.
Mhm.
And when you go into Sales Navigator, I hope I'm not getting this wrong, but I believe you can actually tag or write
I think
comments, or
so.
you can do something. And, probably Kevin Turner will tell us LinkedIn used to do that and then they took it away, because I'm sure that's kind of something that happens. But boy, oh boy, that would be so helpful that we could have that kind of information. So we could say, oh, okay, so and so's, they're a copywriter, and this person is an accountant, and this person's a VA or in a bookkeeper. And then that way, you don't have to do a search. You don't have to do those things. I do searches. Sometimes I'll just do like first level connections
Right.
that are copywriters that live in, the United States. If I know somebody's and then that at least gives me, oh, okay, maybe I'll remember these people now. But that's the best
Right.
I can do.
No, that makes total sense. And I don't want to ding LinkedIn searchability because it does do quite a bit.
It's
When
very
you're doing,
powerful.
it saves time when you're trying to find your ideal prospects and you know exactly what you're looking for. And then there's some wonderful little hacks around that. That I'll give you one example that I learned of recently, and that is to use a hashtag search,
Mm,
because people are using hashtags in their posts. And like, I work with women in business, so, or women professionals, or those kinds of things. There are hashtags for that. And so I could do a hashtag search and then look there, who's posting. And then I can start to engage on their things and begin to build a relationship and set up a connection. And, one thing leads to another, then we're talking, and then we're the next best business buddies.
yep. Yep. That's a great tip. And you're right. It's like the power of search. And, neither one of us is like search ninjas or anything, but the power of search of, you can search for posts, you can search for people, you can narrow down and say, geographically, I want people that are just in the United States, or maybe I just want people that are in Germany, or all these different ways that you can kind of narrow down those searches. They really do help. And especially if you're looking at second level connections, because those are people that you're not traveling in the same pond with,
Right.
but somebody is. So there's your kind of doorway into other people for building up your network. So that's always kind of cool too. That's kind of cool too. So so I know you're in some groups. So how do you stay organized with, just commenting in groups and being in groups? Do you have any good tips for us on that?
I'm actually only in two groups that are really, really active, but if you are in groups that you want to have a more visible presence in, I found the trick is to click that bell and tell it you want notifications of every post, and then they'll show up in your notifications. And then I kind of batch respond. So you mentioned John Asperian. We're both in his Espresso Plus group. When I see it's 3 new posts in John's group, I may not be able to do it at the moment, but I'll watch. And some point in the day when I've got about 5 or 10 minutes, I'll go in the group and I'll just respond to a bunch at once. And that keeps me from going in and out constantly, which just takes more time. It's the
Mm,
same concept as batch creating your content, right?
mhm,
Except you're
mhm.
batching your answers into the group's questions to be visible. But I try to only go into the groups once a day, because that's yeah, that's a black hole of time.
And I love that, because you're right. It's kind of like that same concept of don't keep handling the same piece of paper once.
Yes.
It's that same concept of every time you go and you click, and now you're in a group and you're looking for things and you're doing this and you're doing that. I love that idea of like batching your work, in batching your responses, and like I know one of the tips I think I learned it from John, but is if I post something, and here's even a super ninja tip, and I think John told me this, so I'm hoping I'm doing this right, is he always suggests do your messaging first, because the people you're messaging will actually see your content. It's somehow linked in
Yes.
with the algorithm. My little squirrely brain can't figure exactly how that all works, but there's something about if you're talking with people in the DMs and then you post, they're more likely to see it than your other people who,
And
are in.
engage.
Yes,
So
yes.
again, do you do all these things first? You do your direct message, you go engage
Yep.
with the people that you want to have see your stuff, then you post.
Then you post.
And it's interesting you brought up posting too, because that's another place where you can save time. You can batch create your content outside of LinkedIn. And I say
Mhm.
that on purpose because I have had more posts vanish after I have them beautifully typed and said, and I go to hit submit or whatever, and it's gone. I lost all my work. So you know what? Done with that. I'm on a Mac, so I use text edit. I go in there, I type it all up first. It's a simple copy paste, but you could do 1 or 2 or 3 posts a week at one time, and then just go in, copy, post, grab the graphic that you've created, go with it, or the slide or whatever you have going on visually with it. And that's the fastest way to put it in. To me, it takes longer to type it in LinkedIn because I'm looking at, is it formatting right? Are the words wrapping the right way? As opposed to, I'm just going to type it all up, copy and paste it. I'm done.
Yep. Yep. No, that's very brilliant. And, there's people like us who assume everybody does that, but it's not true. There are people that are literally like, or they're on their phone, typing on a
Otherwise,
LinkedIn, a whole long post, and you're
I've
just
done
like,
it.
ah,
I know it's crazy.
don't do that. Don't
And
do
then when
that.
it disappears, you're just you want to scream.
Yeah, you're absolutely sick to your stomach. And even things like having, nowadays a lot of people are putting like taglines at the bottom of their post, kind of like,
Yes.
if you like this, then follow
Yes.
me, ring my bell, send
Exactly.
me a check, whatever it's
Your
supposed to
signature
be.
line, right? It's your
Yeah,
signature
your
line to
signature
your
line.
post.
Copy that, have that
Exactly.
as, text ready to go at any time. You can
Yep.
put that up, and that's so important. So, have you got the clock yet? Have you been granted that there's that new feature of the little scheduled posts? So, when you go to post, there's this new little I don't know if I have it yet. And I it's rolling out, sort of like the auto captions. It's rolling out where you can actually, if you see a little clock when you go to post, it shows. It's not on iOS. I think it's only on desktop and Android. You'll see a little clock, and that means that you can schedule your post for another day, another day.
Well, I'm not
Might not have
seeing
that.
it before that, but I'm using another tool, which I'm debating. I've been trying it out. It's this, what do they call it? Authored in tool
Oh,
that
okay.
lets you format the text. And that I'm guessing, well, let's see. I can schedule a post from there. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Ooh,
So
so now I
so
could really batch create. Oh, boy, you just saved me some time. Thank you.
we're saving time to save the time, and it's so good because all these little things. But I think the important thing that a lot of people could drop the ball with here is scheduling their posts. You still want to nurture your post. Just
Yes,
because you schedule it, you want to still make sure if it's going to be live at like 10 a.m. on Wednesday,
right.
then make sure you're there to do all that stuff, you know, that if
Yes,
people
to
are
engage,
commenting.
yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
Unless you're
easy though.
if you're on a cruise, we give you a pass.
But that's it. That's easy enough if A, you monitor your notifications because people that will, your notifications will blow up. But the other thing is to set it up on your calendar with a
Yes.
reminder. LinkedIn post dropping 10 o'clock. Go
Mm.
babysit it and make sure you're engaging with that magic first hour.
I love that, and I'm a huge calendar person too. If it's not on the calendar, it's not gonna happen,
That's
so,
right.
I love that, I love that. Now, I see we have some comments, so let me zip through not zip, but
Hey,
let's
Jeff.
let's stroll through the comments, stroll through the comments. So, we've got Jeff Young here supporting us today. "This topic is near and dear to my heart. Looking forward to learning from you, Gillian and Sandee. Namaste." Thanks, Jeff, we always appreciate Jeff. being in the front row. He's always in the front row. I was so impressed with Sandee recently because she knew the Picard maneuver was. Okay, I'm sorry. You have to tell us, what is the Picard maneuver? We must know.
Okay, so if you have ever watched Star Trek Next Generation, Captain Picard's top of his uniform, it's going to be hard to show. He would, I'm going to literally have to stand up. He would take the bottom of it and he would pull it down like that. It got named the Picard maneuver because he was always doing that little pull down move.
Right.
And
Kind
Jeff
of looking
was in
straight.
a costume for Halloween and he had his hands in the Picard maneuver and I recognized it and I messaged him. And, this is the fun part of LinkedIn, when you're connecting with people on such a human level, that it just was fun.
I love that. And it's good that we explained it, because here's Nigel Cliff going,
Yes, what?
So
you gotta watch Star Trek Next Generation.
Yes. You got to watch Star Trek Next Generation. Go back and have a look at Jeff's post. So Jeff, you'll have to put your post in, put a graphic of that Picard maneuver. We want to see it. We want to see it. Leslie from Florida says, hi from Leslie. Yay. Oh, here's the man
my
himself.
Goodness.
Good to see you both. There will be a lot more. This will be a lot more interesting than Richard Branson. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's nice. And so I had family members today that were like, who's Richard Branson? And it's just like, oh, good. Then you know me better. That's good. That's good. Thanks for coming today, John. Appreciate that. LinkedIn says Sandee joined in 20087. Oh my gosh. Sandee, you're a lot. You look better than you.
2008, I think.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
Yeah.
It's a Star Trek thing. Same here, Sandee. Okay, avoid the feed. So yeah, wow, because that is something, that's the very last thing that I put on my list, because I have key people that I want to see, but every once in a while, I do want to spend a little bit of time on the feed, because there might be some things that are just, oh, I haven't heard from that person in a while. And I do try to, comment and I'm hearing now that we're supposed to comment before we like. Apparently that's a new thing. I was not aware of this. This is a lot of people are saying it means more, and I don't think I'll ever change. I think I always have to just automatically click something and then comment. But
I think the commenting part is the important part, where too many people just go like insightful, whatever. They only hit reactions and they never actually say anything. I mean, again, I'll go back to the word conversation. To me, LinkedIn is all about this, what we're doing today for real, but doing virtually through commenting and engaging and posting and direct messaging. It's networking. This is a networking platform. How can you network if you never talk? If you just walk into a live networking event and went, I mean, what are you going to accomplish just being totally silent? You have to be yourself and talk to people. So
I agree.
I never, it's one of my cardinal rules. I never hit a like or a reaction without a comment. I don't know about the sequencing. That's new, but always put something with some intelligence, not like nice post.
Yeah, because that's almost pod-like. It either makes you look like you're just very lazy, and you didn't even read the post. That's you just kind of go, did you even read what I'm talking about? It's like I might be just telling you that I had a car accident or something, and you're like, nice post, and you're
exactly right. It's
you
not
didn't get it.
Yeah.
You didn't get it. And I think that probably another time-saving tip for the feed is that if you don't like your feed, if you do stop and read the feed, clean it up, clean up that feed. Tell LinkedIn what you like, what you don't like, stop following people if you don't like their posts, manage that feed if you're going to look at it. So I do that. So she avoids the feed too. So that's lots of people voting on this. I don't spend much time on the feed either. I hang around the notifications.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Me too, Jeff. That's interesting. he still
Oh,
doesn't have Focus Inbox. So Focus Inbox is something that's rolling out still to people. It's not, it's not to everybody. And it's basically just in a nutshell, it's splitting your inbox into kind of these are the people you're chatting with on a more consistent basis, and other, it's not just necessarily in mail, it's kind of people that have dropped off your radar screen, people that you haven't had a chat with. And like Sandee, you said, you got to kind of keep going back there because there might be a conversation that you're like, uh-oh, I thought I answered that. And, they're going to have me on a podcast in a week and I've blown it, so
right, right.
there's, don't, yeah, keep it live, keep it live. Nigel says, there is a significant risk of being in your own echo chamber if we don't dabble in the feed a little. So yeah, that's a really
That's
good
true.
thing that you're not aware of what are the trends, what are people talking about, what's hot, and
Oh,
I think, especially probably now that we're so global, it's like if all of a sudden, you go, "Oh, there's like everybody's into like the World Cup." I don't even know what that is. It's all going on in Europe and everybody's running around playing with in America we hear football. We have a totally different vision of what football is. So when Europeans say football, it's like, oh, my brain has to go, oh, that's soccer. And something important is happening this weekend because everybody's talking about it. So, these are the kind of things sometimes, or, knowing the queen died, like things.
yeah.
It is.
Gillian, there's another thing I do to stay a little more relevant to Nigel's point. Yes, I mean, I'm not saying don't ever go into the feed, but just I try to cap it at 5 to 10 minutes and then back out. But I tend to use the notifications will tell me when the daily rundown, their little news grouping of things,
Mm,
is out, and I will go in there and on a pretty regular basis read through those and engage. And I've been featured in a lot of the answers, which
yeah.
opens me up to a lot of people that I would not have met any other way. Some good, some not so good, but it's a way of connecting. And I have connected with people I had no connection with until I read them in the
Mm,
news. But
mm.
I looked at their profile and I thought, this is an interesting person. I want to meet them. So I engaged on their part of the LinkedIn news. And then that started a conversation.
That's interesting, and I have never done that before. So, how do you actually get featured? Is it you comment on
Yeah,
whatever is out there, and then
kind
they
of
co
random.
they
But yeah,
okay.
so there'll be like the main news piece, and then there will be people who comment, and I've been one of those people that have been listed there. It's been both commenting on the original or sometimes even commenting on somebody's commenting. Um,
Mm,
I don't know what the requirements are, but it's happened a good number of times to me. And to me, it's just another way of being very visible in a
yep,
very short form. That's one of the times I might be on my phone answering things.
yes.
But that is another way to open conversations with people, to Nigel's point, that are not your connections at all usually. It's surprising to me when I see how many of them are second connections, though.
Mm,
You start looking at who's commenting, and I'm you talked about sphere of influence earlier, and it's actually quite surprising to me sometimes when I see how I'm connected to people I had no clue I would know, but
mhm.
there's somebody that is very close to me who's in between us. And now suddenly this is a warm conversation. It's like, hey, you know, I see you're connected to Gillian and she's fabulous. And, we should talk about what you're doing with whatever. But,
Right.
the LinkedIn news is in the top corner, so you can go right from there. Or, and like I said, for me, it shows up in notifications. I probably opted into that somewhere along the line to be told when the daily rundown was released. It's
I love
usually
that. I love that. And it's good because, it in addition to, the visibility and meeting new people, you're also learning,
yes,
and for those of us who enjoy, like all of a sudden you're like, "Oh," and most of the time it's kind of business focused, and you might say, "I didn't know that that was going on with, these
all
advertisements,"
the time.
or all of a sudden it's like you're just learning a little bit of something new, and
Exactly.
so I think that's really good. Do you have any tips on, like you talked earlier about doing searches for hashtags. Are you doing any other things with hashtags? Do you actually just go in and ever just scroll through hashtags, or do you use hashtags yourself? Are you doing anything special with hashtags?
I do. I subscribe to the theory that everyone should have their own personal hashtag. I mean, you see that
Mm,
my brand is Sandee Solves, so I use a Sandee Solves hashtag, but I also use bigger followings for things like women in business. That's a huge hashtag. There's a lot of people using that one. And then I keep it under. I don't ever want to do more than 5 hashtags. It's Richard Vanderbloom has been very clear
yep,
on that's like the magic number. Um, so I try to tag something that's sort of relevant to what I'm actually talking about, or that is a topic hashtag that I think would attract people that want to see what I'm talking about.
that's good.
But I keep it rather limited for that reason. This is not Instagram where you put a list of 50 hashtags.
Yeah, and especially, like, in the middle of your post as you're typing and, and it's really it makes it unreadable when
It
you're hashtagging all the way through a post, and I love your tip of the personal branded hashtag because, again, this could save you time down the road if you just say, you're meeting with somebody and they're like, "Oh, I'd love to know about this," and you're like, "I wrote a post on that," or "I did a video on that," or "I have a slider on that." You can very easily go to your own hashtag and find your post better than if you were just scrolling through your own post forever. So,
exactly.
that's a good thing too. That's great too. So we've hit our 30-minute mark. It just goes so fast.
It
So,
does.
any final words of wisdom you want to leave us with today, Sandee?
Just circle back to the word intentional. Be intentional
Mm.
about when and how you use LinkedIn, and that way it doesn't become your whole day and a waste of time where you get, not only are you there for hours, but you didn't accomplish anything.
Yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you for being a guest today, Sandee. I encourage everybody, please take advantage of meeting Sandee today. If you didn't know Sandee, go follow her, connect with her, send her a lovely, lovely message, and let her know that you met her here today. And we'll see everybody back next week. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon. Okay,
Bye bye.
bye.